Hey Flock, welcome to 3 and 3 Out. This is Clinton Bonner. Got a kind of a special audio only edition for you today. Sorry about that. Had a couple of technical difficulties and I literally ran out of daylight. So I figured the audio version better than nothing. And my only regret, well, I've got regrets, but my only big regret is that I know Flocktimus Prime can't make any gifts out of this, or maybe he can. I mean, the man's a magical man. He can do lots of things. Anyway, buckle in. This is 3 and 3 Out, the audio edition. This is after the Oakland Raiders game, so get ready for your unique Seattle Seahawks recap. And as you know, 3 and 3 Out is written and performed and recorded and distributed exclusively for the Seahawkers podcast. So get ready for the ins, get ready for the outs, get ready for the nooks, get ready for the crannies, and of course, go Hawks. I don't know about you Flockers, but I enjoyed every single moment of this game. I really loved. I didn't get to go to London. I know a lot of us did not, but I also know a lot of the Flockers, a lot of the flock, so many 12s were over in London. And I don't know, I rejoiced. It was, sure, I would love to be there, but hey, I couldn't be, but I was just so happy to see so many of our friends and fellow Seahawks fans like really enjoying themselves over there. So I just want to say, for any of those that got to go, for everyone that got to go, congrats. That looked like so much fun. I'm glad everybody got to experience that. Even watching it from afar, it was special. So this game was just kind of a joyful celebration. The nice part is, if you follow 3 and 3 Out, you know that when we win, we start with an in. So let's get to that first in right now. All right, folks, on 3 and 3 Out that when the world zigs, we're going to zag a little bit. So while everybody's talking about Frank the Tank, and deservedly so, Frank the Tank is a beast and we love that man on the field. But when people are zigging, we're going to zag. Let's talk and give the first in to Jarran Reed. Reed had a whale of a game as well. He's got 4 sacks on the season. The dude, for an interior lineman, is putting together one heck of a season. Now sit back and close your eyes for a second. Watch that first defensive play, replay in your brain. Do you see what I see? Do you see what I see? I see Reed crashing through the line and making a huge stop on first down, tackling Money Lynch behind the line of scrimmage and putting the Raiders in an immediate hole in what was the Far East clink, right? Just London clink East. Later on, he disrupts a screen with the help of Trey Flowers, snuffs out a screen, disrupts that. He gets a sack this game. Even in the fourth quarter, he's still disrupting things. I thought Jarran Reed played an amazing game all the way through. We mentioned he has 4 sacks on the year. So our ability to cause pressure up the gut, that's game changing. I mean, let's face it. We knew Jarran Reed was a run stuffer coming out of college. That's what he was known for. And, as an interior lineman, you get a big body like an old Sam Adams in there, and a guy that just is strong and stays in his gaps and frees up amazing linebackers to go do their job, and is a sound tackler at the line. You've got a stud. That's a great lineman. It's a great interior lineman. That's what Jarran Reed has always been. And now all of a sudden we're getting this like athleticism boost where he's got 4 sacks in the season and he's just doing more things. Maybe because some of the attrition and some of the injuries and some of the things that seemingly were losses for the Seahawks, Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill, et cetera, maybe those pieces moving out, moving around have changed the playbook a bit and changed responsibilities and put more emphasis on Jarran Reed to go do some other things and get to the quarterback more often. Whatever it is, I love what I'm seeing from Reed. Reed is putting together a monster year. So the first in goes to Reed. Great game, putting together a monster season. I mean, listen, you come out and you make the first play of the game and then you have a great game on top of that. That in baseball, that's called having a day, right? Jarran Reed had a day. Reed, first in. All right, let's get to an out. There ain't that many to talk about, but let's mosey on over to one right now. All right, when you win 27-3 in what is essentially a home game across the pond, there's not too much to pick on, but it is 3 and 3 Out, so we live and die with the format. So for me, I looked at, as we got into the second quarter, we're up 14-0. The Raiders just missed a field goal, so we're getting good field position. And we have an okay drive going, and that's when we just missed Baldwin deep in the end zone when he was like just a step behind it. And then Baldwin slips on third down, and he was frustrated. The field was a bit of a mess. I don't know how the 5% plastic, whatever they did on that field, it seemed really slick out there with just a little bit of rain, which may be okay for soccer, but but no bueno for football Americano. So we have to punt the ball back. It was just like little moments like that where we kept giving the Raiders an opportunity to actually get back in this game. If they could have mustered any sort of, of a drive and put 7 on the board. Now they did not do that, but it's one of those things where against better teams, if we're up and we have an opportunity to kind of put the dagger in, it's all about execution, and we got to get that done. We ran the ball so well out of the gate. What was it, 7 runs to start the game? And then we're up 14-0. We got good field position, and we just go away from what's working. We just kind of slide away. It's an okay time to take a shot downfield. No complaints there. But I just felt like we got away from the run there, and we got away from what we had done early to set the tone, and all of a sudden now we're punting again. And we did that a couple times. We gave the Raiders chances to get back in. And like I said, it's just one of those things. Against better teams, a better team will find a way to get back in that game. Can't have that as we get into this, what will be kind of our second half of the year, if you will, after this bye week. We have a pretty tough schedule coming up. So just one of those things about consistency, and that when we have an early lead, being able to extend that and put these teams in a really tough position against us, and do not let them back in the ball game. So that's the first out, but let's get back on over to an in. All right, back to our favorite side of the ledger, of course, the inside. So this player is getting some shine now, because in a couple of weeks or a couple of weeks in a row consecutively, he's he scored a couple touchdowns, and 3 in fact. So this end's going to David Moore. Now the reason is, like, I want to tell you, the touchdown's a nice touchdown, the tippy toes and all that, and I want to go into his other big catch. I think is actually his only other catch, but I want to go into that catch a bit. But the thing is, like, when you watch David Moore out there, David Moore is a very, I would use the term like elegant receiver. And I'm using that term with purpose. He reminds me, if I'm going to jump ship and cross streams and go into a different space-time continuum, it's just a whole different, paradox and universe of sportsdom here. He reminds me of Clyde the Glide Drexler. He is just smooth out there. So I know a lot of the PNW sports fans and just basketball fans in general, and anybody of a certain age that watched basketball during that era is going to know Clyde the Glide. And if you don't, if you're younger and you're like, well, who's Clyde Drexler? Just go on the YouTube and just speak to one of your devices and say, show me highlights of Clyde Drexler, and then just sit down, like get yourself a nice seltzer. I don't know, squeeze a lime in there, or maybe buy one that just has lime flavor so you could skip that step and just watch the smoothness that was Clyde Drexler. Now, David Moore, playing football, I mean, obviously, different sport, of course, but the man is very smooth. It's one of those things that you can't teach that kind of smoothness. He just simply has it. So the touchdown, quite graceful, the tippy toes, nice hands, but the other play down the sidelines, when he high pointed the ball, when he's running and is able to kind of turn clockwise, high point the ball in mid-turn over a defender, grab it, continue his rotation, land both feet, and stick it for whatever that was, maybe 25, 30 yards down the sidelines. That was an incredible catch. But it's not just the hands. It is the way that he moves and the way that he is able to literally glide on the field. He is an impressive athlete. So if you go down, if you're a fantasy fan and you're looking at his targets, you're like, wow, he had 3 targets the week before, and he had, I think, 2 targets this week, something like that, right? His targets are low. That's going to change. Obviously, we saw a lot less of Brandon Marshall. We saw more Dougie this week, which was great to see. Lockett's going to get his. Didn't see a lot of the good Brown, although he scored the first touchdown. But there's gotta be room for a guy like this. So, little Mama Cleo alert is just, it may not be the next game against the Lions, but Moore is just going to get more targets, because an athlete like that just demands more targets. Now, we're not the type of team that's going to have some dude getting 10, 12 targets a game. It just doesn't happen like that. But by mid-season and by the third quarter of the year, I would expect to see Moore getting somewhere between 5 to 7 targets a game, because his outputs and his abilities demand it. So the in goes to Moore. That dude is one elegant and silky smooth player. So he gets the in. Congrats to Dave Moore. Watch that dude. He could ball. So one thing that kind of bugged me in this game was that we saw less Chris Carson again. We had a great dosage of him in that first drive, in that first quarter. In fact, he had the like half-yard touchdown, but it was called back because of a false start. The refs didn't tell us who it was. The broadcast didn't show us who it was. So if anybody out there knows who got that false start, I'm sure it's out there. Let me know. I have no idea who actually got tagged for that false start. And then as the game wore on, like, let's put it this way. The fourth quarter, I totally understand that. The fourth quarter, they give the ball to Penny. They say, hey, rookie, go clean this up. Go earn your stripes and go kill clock. Great usage of Penny. He looked better. He, was hitting the holes with a bit more aggression, and he did his job in the fourth quarter. No problem with that whatsoever. However, we're up 20-0, third quarter. The game's not over yet. 20-0 is, 3 scores. Teams can score 3 times. And we're down at the goal line, close to the goal line. No sign of Chris Carson. Penny's in, and that's when Russ throws that interception. Ill-advised pass. Russ, of course, wants that back. He played a pretty darn good game, quite a good game. So we're not going to get on him for one bad pass. We all know he wants that one back. But the big thing for me was Carson kept having big plays, chunk plays, getting called back. Hands to the face, holding, touchdown taken back because of an offsides. And it was just kind of wearing on me, because what I don't want to see happen is if this quote unquote emergence of Penny starts to eat into Carson's time, then we've got this 3-headed monster, if you will. Hey, as a unit, that's pretty good. But to me, it is very, very clear that it goes Carson, Davis, Penny in terms of skill level and like readiness to make an impact on every single play in the NFL right now. Davis is a good spell for Carson. Carson is a league above Davis. And right now, Davis is better than Penny. Third quarter, second quarter, I wanted more Carson. So for me, it's just like, hey, if that's a close game, I hope that if it's a close game, we would have gotten that more cowbell. We would have gotten that more cowbell there and just kept seeing Carson. But I don't know. And that kind of worries me. So the out goes to the lack of Carson in the middle of the game when it wasn't out of reach just yet. I mean, that dude deserves to get more touches. He deserves to get the most touches. And if we're near the goal line, give that dude the rock. Give that guy the rock and give it to him often. So wasn't a fan of that. That's the out. All right, let's hop on over to our last in for the week. All right, I'm going to keep this one concise and to the point and short and on point and all those things. This in doesn't go to one person, one man, one play, but it goes to the thing, the entity, the being that is the pocket thingy. Now, if you're like, what's a pocket thingy? Well, then you need to do better, because the Seahawks podcast has been talking about the formation and like the white stag of Narnia that you barely see a pocket thingy actually formed, because Brandon and Adam have been pointing it out in 2015, 2016, 2017, that it is so rare that we can actually form up a traditional pocket to protect our passer, to protect Russell Wilson, to give him good throwing lanes. But now, all of a sudden, these last few weeks, we're doing it and we're doing it and we're doing it well. And we have consistency, and we have this dome shape just forming around Russell, creating this pocket. It's not that he has all day. He has enough time, and he has clear lines to see the field, clear sight lines. And what's the results? What was he, 17 of 23? Deadly accurate most of the game. The NFL goes gaga, especially the announcers, for Aaron Rodgers every single week because of the throws the guy can make. And I get it. I'm not taking away. I'm not yucking the yum of Aaron Rodgers. I get why people are gaga over him, always and forevermore. I get that. But give Russ some time in the pocket and just some clear throwing lanes, and the dude is just deadly accurate. So this in, it's just for that. It's just for what we're seeing out there. It's that consistency. It is for the fact that we could form a pocket thingy. It's like on demand. We are winning in the offensive trenches. We have an identity. And when we do choose to throw the ball, we're giving Russ a pocket thingy. That's the in. I couldn't be happier about it. I cannot wait to see what happens the rest of this year. If this level of consistency stays there, we are going to be a very, very good team and tough for any NFL team to beat. This last out, this is a specific play. I think it's the second quarter. We're up 14-0. And this kind of bleeds into what I was saying earlier, that we were letting the Raiders hang around. And when we didn't put the game away after they missed that field goal, we didn't get more points in that drive and punt the ball back. I just kept saying to myself, man, if the Raiders can muster up 7 before halftime, we've really squandered what should be a blowout at this point. We're up 14-0. It's now 3rd and 20. So we're on defense. It's 3rd and 20. And the Raiders have done nothing all day. We have them in such a killer position. And we let the Raiders convert on that 3rd and 20. And it's one thing if a dude just goes and runs just a go route and wins a jump ball. It's 25 yards or 30 yards downfield. And you say, all right, a low percentage play and the dude came down with it. Okay, fine. But that's not what happened. In this play, I think it was a swing pass. It might have been to Jalen Richard out of the backfield. On this particular play, Mingo was nowhere near his man. Nowhere near him. There was just such a gap between where Mingo needed to be and where I think it was Richard, where he caught the ball and turned to the field, that Mingo had no shot. He takes to the field. I think he ended up getting 21 yards on 3rd down. So at 3rd and 20, they're on the ropes. They're up 14-0. And you give up a 21-yard pass on a little swing route out of the backfield. The Raiders are not a good team. We're going to play better competition these next 10 games. If we are in a situation where we're up 14-0 on some of these good teams, and then we allow them to convert on 3rd and 20 on a play they had no business converting on, they were basically giving that up. They were basically doing, for the most part, a little check down. You hope to get 10 or 15 yards. You punt the ball away. If we give up first downs like that to better teams, that's how we'll end up scratching our heads being like, how did this team not make the playoffs? It's little plays like that. 3rd and 20, you just got to get off the field. All right, that's the last out. Hey, we know those outs were a little nitpicky. Again, a 27-3 win in London. So we're just fired up about that. Although this is mostly audio, if you are watching this on YouTube, on the Seahawkers podcast channel, let's get to some from the flock. I don't want to disappoint there. I want to make sure that your ins and your outs and what you shared on Sunday, that you get that shine because you deserve that shine. So let's get to my favorite portion of the show, my favorite segment, from the flock. Certainly be remiss if I didn't give you a little bit of like my perspective and my POV on the passing of Paul Allen, our owner. Rest in peace, Paul. For me, this was an incredible week of learning. And I'll tell you why. I grew up on Long Island, right? So I'm a 6-year-old kid, and I tell my mom that I like the Seahawks. I tell my mom and dad I like the Seahawks logo. I think they have cool uniforms. And then my mom has to send away write a letter to ask for a catalog, get a catalog sent back to us to then, mail away and get something back from the order form. And I had this like number 32. It didn't say John L. Williams, but it was basically a number 32 jersey, this big meshy holes, but I loved it. So I think I was like 6 or 7 years old rocking that thing at school. And that was it. I was forevermore a Seahawks fan. But during the darkest days, during this 1997, when the franchise was on the ropes, I was a sophomore up at UConn. So I went to, that's where I went to school, go Huskies. I was 19 years old. I wasn't paying careful attention to what was happening in the Pacific Northwest. Now, I know Paul Allen. I, of course, know the lineage to Microsoft. I know he's been an amazing owner. I just didn't realize how close this was to the team not being there. I just never knew. I knew it was a possibility. I was following it loosely. The team might go to California. I learned so much this week about the referendum, about the vote, about rallying the state to pass this thing at the ballot box. I never knew any of that. I was shocked actually to find this out. So it gave me, I always had great appreciation for him as an owner because of what I could read, right? I could read that he's a great owner, but I just didn't realize the depths and the personal the personal risk and everything he put into literally saving the Seahawks and keeping them in the Pacific Northwest, keeping them in Seattle, and then making some really fantastic hires, bringing in high caliber people. And then you read later when Pete Carroll's talking about Paul Allen's influence, that Pete wasn't ready to go anywhere. He wasn't ready to come back to the NFL. But it was after meetings with Paul Allen that basically Paul convinced him that this was the right time and this was the right place for Pete to come in, and that there would be great success. I mean, man, talk about talk about changing the course of history, right? This guy did it, and did it over and over and over again. So, as one single flocker, as one single rabid Seahawks fan who grew up 3,000 miles away, removed from the Pacific Northwest community, totally no real affiliation to that side of the country. I just got to say thank you. Thank you for everything you did. And I don't know about you, flockers, but I'm already getting some tingles all over thinking about, I got one thing on the brain: hosting our next NFC championship game. That was Paul's thing, right? He would raise the 12th man flag. He would only do it for that last game before Super Bowl. So I don't know. Hey, it might not happen this year. Obviously, if we get into the playoffs, we're not going to be the 1 seed, so it makes things difficult. Maybe it does. But some point in the future, we're going to be hosting the NFC Championship game, and I'm already getting tingles for that moment. I'm already getting this sense of how powerful that's going to be. So already excited for the future because of what Paul Allen did with his time on Earth in the past here. So again, thank you, Paul. Rest in peace, and go Hawks.